Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Qazi. I'm a skin restoration specialist in Newport Beach, California. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about this that happened to Brian Johnson. He injected himself with some sort of fat that actually, I guess, was artificial fat, which ended up causing an allergic reaction. You can see this enormous puffy appearance that occurred afterwards. Really interesting kind of case. I want to go through a little bit about this and talk to you guys a little bit about what you can do for anti-aging purposes. You know, Brian, he spends, or at least he says that he spends about $2 million on anti-aging every year. So I think it's kind of worth seeing, is that really what you need to spend in order to prevent aging? You know, he's 5 years older than me. And has kind of touted that he's broken the code, or trying to break the code for the aging process. He does a lot for it. You know, I think he does push a little bit for different forms of medicine to kind of take a look and seeing what can help for the anti-aging process. And he's trying to be at the forefront for that. And sometimes there's mishaps like this. And so I want a little bit to go through this and see, is this really what's necessary for, preventing the aging process? You know, is it something that, is there some alternatives that we could go through? And maybe there's something that we are missing in this equation for better skin and just better health overall. I'm going to answer a couple of questions as I go through this before I dive more into this. I'll wait for some more people to join on. But for now, Tamika is saying, who's your top rhinoplasty revision surgeon for an African-American or ethnic nose? It's a good question. I would say that, in our area at least, well, there's a couple people. I think Dr. Kim, he's over in Seattle. He does very, very good work. At least from what I see, he does actually very, very good work. And for a facial plastic surgeon, he does a lot with rhinoplasty, but also does like deep plane facelifts and neck lifts. Very, very good with that. Michael Kim, I believe his name is. And then also Aaron Cousins is over here in Newport Beach. Very good. So those are probably for rhinoplasty, at least that I've seen, very, very good surgeons. Pune is saying, is Moxie last, okay, so I think you misspelled it though, but Pune is asking, is Moxie good for melasma? I would not say it's that great for darker skin types. It may be okay for Fitzpatrick 1 through 3, but other than that, probably not going to be the best option for melasma. There's a lot of better options out there. I could show some melasma results. Actually, I have a few new ones actually as well that some people let us share. I'm going to blow this one up a little bit so you can see a little bit closer what's going on here. So that interesting story basically is that he injected himself, and he was trying something that was similar to fat. He was saying that basically he didn't have enough fat, so he ended up doing a process. Actually, I'll pull up the article right now. Let's pull up the story here. And so basically what he was saying is that he was doing something where he injected some fat-derived extracellular matrix. And it's kind of curious what that was. Is that just, Renuva? It doesn't really say. But something was, something happened with him where he ended up getting an allergic reaction. And, he was puffy for more than a week. And so kind of interesting kind of case. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but you can see this where he had this bad reaction, and then it looked like he still, he showed this at the end, this photo, and it looked like he was still puffy there. I'm not sure how long afterwards it was like that, or if it stayed like that. But it's worth kind of talking a little bit about the different options for aging, and maybe potentially we could see if there's other options that don't cost as much. He spends $2 million a year, and I think it really should be more accessible to people. And I think it is more accessible than people realize. It's not necessary to be spending that much money. The way it seems so daunting. It's like only the multi-millionaire class, only the billionaire class can afford these treatments. But maybe there's alternatives. Maybe there's things that could actually fit within your budget that could still work for the anti-aging process. So we'll go through a little bit about that and see what things you could potentially do depending on what's happening with your skin and your volume loss. And so you don't have experimental procedures done that cause reactions like this, and you don't have things that potentially are going to end up being too swollen or too puffy for you in the long run. You want it to look really natural. You want to just age really gracefully, and part of that is really going to be with some of the mainstay treatments that I do, which is more like collagen stimulating products. So I'll go through a little bit about that as well in just a few moments. I'll hit a few more questions here. Nano is saying, hi, what do you prefer, hyperdilute Radiesse for microneedling or injecting Radiesse? Well, injecting Radiesse is going to give you a bit more of that collagen response. Hyperdilute Radiesse, microneedle is nice for like just overall skin quality, but injectable does give you a little bit more volume there. So I personally, I'm a big fan of injectable dilute Radiesse. I really, really love it. I'll show you actually a couple people that I've done it on as well, so you can see that improvement there. Foreign Cooks saying, I saw you have one pic for a scar and forehead on your Instagram page. Do you have any more? Yes. I'll double check. There was a patient that just came in a couple of days ago. I'll double check to see if she lets me share it. There was a gentleman from a few weeks ago who had a really, really good case. We were almost done with his. I'll double check to see if he lets us use this. I'll see if there's anything that I can follow up with those guys. Holly Moon is saying, is there any way to remove redness from your chest area? I'm a ginger and chest is red. XLV works very, very well for that, or broadband light, IPL, all good options there. Tamika is saying, my dermatologist recommended hydroquinone for dark mark scars on my face. It made matters worse. It's possible that you had some sun exposure, which caused you to get some more pigmentation after that. So yeah, it is possible that ended up happening. In general, whenever we're doing things that are skin lighteners, you got to be really, really careful with sun exposure. But I'm not like a huge fan of hydroquinone. So for me, I usually use non-hydroquinone based products, but you always want to make sure that patients are wearing a very strong sunblock. So I'll show a couple of things here with this portion of things. You're going to see, take a look at this. This is with dilute Radiesse right here. You can see that significant improvement over time. The skin quality is so much better. There was like this firmness in the skin over time, which is really nice. So of course, there's a volumizing effect with it as well. And then there's an aspect where the skin itself feels more firm, which is really nice. It does stimulate elastin production, which is really useful for skin tightening. And one of the few products that actually does a very, very good job in stimulating that elastin production. So this is with dilute Radiesse. I did it really throughout the whole face, combined with a little bit of hyaluronic acid in areas like the lips, a tiny bit there, a tiny bit underneath the eyes as well. But this was what I ended up doing. This is really more of like the fuller facial balancing here for this particular patient. Worked incredibly well. You can see really, really nice, nice improvement over here. Let me show you another one. This is actually another dilute Radiesse case. You could take a look and see this one. I think Radiesse is something that's not really pushed enough. I think it's a really, really beautiful product. I like that. I like Sculptra. I like Bellafill. I like all these products. It just depends on what I'm looking at with the skin. If there's more laxity, sometimes I'll say, let's do more like Radiesse. This patient, she was worried about like there's laxity there in her jowls, for example. It was just looser. So dilute Radiesse worked incredibly well for her. Please share the price of dilute Radiesse. It's actually on our website. You can go to our website. You can see our prices on there. I believe it's $1,200 though for dilute Radiesse. Most patients need 2 for the face to start out with there. So just hopefully that'll help you out with the price point there. But you can see really, really nice natural way of doing things. The point of this is really to showcase that you don't have to spend $2 million a year, really. There's ways of doing this. And in this case, these are products that last a long time. They're things that are tried and true. We have really, really great studies that showcase that it works very, very well. There's multiple studies. There's something that was published about 6 or 7 years ago, about 6 years ago, I believe. It was a hyperdilute Radiesse consensus paper. It came out of Brazil. A showcase that doing a dilute form of Radiesse directly underneath the skin stimulates elastin production and collagen production. And over time, doing it a couple times, there is longevity with this. You may have a little bit less volume as you get older, but the skin quality itself continues to improve, and it stays really, really nice actually. So you get to keep that really, for a long time, that firmness in your skin, the plumpness in your skin, which is really, really fun for patients to be able to have that. Let me show you another patient. Let's see if I can find that one. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, this is mostly Bellafill for this patient. I did Bellafill here. Hopefully you can see this one here. I think I have to lower it a little bit. Let's see if I could lower it for you. But you can see this is a patient that she was in her, I want to say late 50s, if I believe so. But this is Bellafill. She just wanted a fresher look. Didn't want anybody to know she did anything. This is mostly Bellafill. I even did it a little bit on the corner of her jawline as well. Helped out with her jowls as well over here. Just a really, like, she just wanted to be softer. That's what I wanted to do with her. I think we achieved that really, really well. So really nice, because it's something that people struggle a lot with these jowls, and they may not be ready for surgery. Surgery, of course, is the biggest thing to improve jowls, but there's ways that we can mask it a little bit to hide that and blend it in pretty well with like collagen stimulating products such as Bellafill. So this is Bellafill right here. So again, you don't have to do things that are $2 million plus. You could do things with long-lasting results. This patient still looks excellent, amazing with just Bellafill. Foreign Cook saying said, I heard sometimes you do consultations on live. Are you doing one anytime soon? So go to our page at drqazi.com, submit a photo there on our forums. You just go to the forum area. You can submit a photo over there. And, I could end up using it actually over for the lives, and we could go through the kind of the case and see what you need to do for your skin. And I've done that multiple times for a lot of patients who submitted it. Some people have also just messaged us, but the best way to do it is actually through the forum process, because my team will then take a look and kind of categorize when we could approach and answer those questions and go through the case there. So yeah, I could go through it. It's not exactly a consultation per se, but just a general advice of what I potentially would do if you happen to be my patient. Let's see. Alice Waters saying, for chest red acne marks that look like keloid, what cream should I use? So you may just want silicone tape for that. Silicone tape is an excellent option. I don't find cream to be as helpful as silicone tape, honestly. Silicone tape works incredibly well to help flatten those keloids. I do think that's probably going to be the best option there. So strongly consider doing that. Silicone tape, it's going to be really something that's going to help prevent friction. And then also be careful about like kind of what bras you're using, things like that. Those could cause more friction as well, which ends up causing it to get really angry. So yeah, definitely a big believer in silicone tape. We have a really good one on our page. We're actually even getting another one that's the one that we usually get is always out of stock. We're going to get some more recently. We've got some more for these larger size ones too. So for like more like tummy tuck areas, things like that. But you could go to our page, drqazi.com, and you could go through and check out that way. Actually, we have silicone tape on there. Really, really excellent brand. Actually, at least I found it's one of the ones. I tried a bunch of different kind, and this one tended to be like just the best in terms of making sure that the area stays flat. Doesn't really tend to peel off as much, especially if you kind of layer it with the right tape, right way to do it. You want to make sure you're angling it on the face. It does actually help with like making you a little bit more chiseled out. You'll see that. There's some people that would actually find that that's going to be helpful for them if they want to get more of like that chiseled out look, get like depuff a little bit. Silicone tape helps with that. So something to consider doing actually is with silicone tape. Let's see. I think I had one more thing on here. Let's see if I had anything else. Oh yeah, this is another one actually too. Take a look at this. This is, again, dilute Radiesse. This is also with Bellafill as well. So a combination of dilute Radiesse and Bellafill for this patient. Also did a little bit of hyaluronic acid filler in her lips, also underneath the eyes a little bit there. Really, really amazing results here. Really amazing. I've seen her now. Actually, this was several years ago. I still see this patient. She comes in for Botox a couple times a year. I do Dysport on her, but she comes in for that, and like it still looks amazing. Skin looks amazing still, and it's awesome. She got really gaunt, and so these are things that you could do. There's ways of doing this that don't require that $2 million price point, and like kind of experimental treatments that this situation happened with, which was what kind of spurred this whole talk, which was the this fat transfer issue. Although it wasn't fat transfer, I'm not sure exactly what he used. He said that it was some sort of they said it seemed like it was almost like fat. There was an extracellular matrix of fat. Sounds almost like Renuva potentially. I'm not sure, but he said he had an allergic reaction to it. And it lasted for a couple of weeks, which is unfortunate. Like I said, he spends $2 million a year. He's 5 years older than me, and all power to him. I'm glad that he's trying to unlock the aging process, but I think that's not really accessible to the vast majority of patients at all. There's ways of doing this without making it as expensive. There's ways of making this so that it's, essentially more accessible for people. The stuff that I was showing you, that's a couple $1,000s or a few $1,000s worth of product and treatments. It's certainly not going to require $2 million. And these patients I see for years and years later, and they still look excellent. They still look amazing. And so it's like, do you really have to go down the whole route that, he's doing and subjecting himself to? I don't think so. I think that there's ways of doing this, and I think a lot more people should be aware that this is not something that has to be out of reach. This doesn't have to be something that you feel like, only a billionaire has to can get access to. I see all the time people say, man, I wish I was rich to be able to do this. And I don't know if people understand that. It's not like some of the stuff, like we could start without like it being super expensive. There's little bits that we could do that could help you out and improve your skin. And this particular patient is a prime example of that. She did this treatment and we didn't actually have to do much more after that. Like this was it. She just does a little bit of Dysport a couple times a year. Lena is saying, will we get the max results getting CO2 laser without subcision? Well, if you have rolling scars, you probably aren't going to get the max results. I doubt it. Really, you definitely need to do something to break up the scar tissue. So just doing CO2 laser isn't going to be enough. I have so many other patients who I found that they did lasers multiple times, and they found that actually it just didn't end up helping. The fact that the subcision was the best thing that ended up solving it. It broke up the scar tissue really quickly. Lifted up the scar, and even though the fact that they did so many lasers, it didn't change those rolling scars. Let's see. So Caesar thinks that this patient looks older. And what way do you think this patient looks older? Actually, I'm actually really curious to see what your thought process is on that. What do you think makes her look older now in the after photo? Let's see here. What did she do? So she did dilute Radiesse. We also did a little bit of Bellafill. We did a little bit of hyaluronic acid for her as well. She does some Dysport as well. So again, really amazing results. And it stayed with her. She gets to keep these results. She gets to keep it. And it's one of these things that essentially, her skin is more firm now. It's just like better quality skin. And, this is something that I think people don't really necessarily appreciate too much. And it was something what Brian Johnson was talking about in his, in that article I was talking about, which is that he didn't have much fat. So he couldn't do a fat transfer, for example, because he didn't have much fat. This patient, for example, couldn't do much fat transfer. Someone like me too, it's like whenever I lose weight, it's like really obvious on my face that I lost weight. I get really gaunt super fast. I just don't have much fat to give. And so it's like really clear when I'm losing a little bit of weight. Just because I'm working or something like that, I just like lose it and get really gaunt really fast. That's exactly what happens to this patient. A lot of patients like that. And so, she could have went to somebody who just does hyaluronic acid filler, and they wouldn't have been able to achieve these long-lasting results with hyaluronic acid filler. So they wouldn't have been able to do that with that, because what that does is draw on water. It hardly stimulates much collagen response at all. And you could get other complications with that down the line, especially if you're doing like a global volumization the way this is. So this is, with a combination of collagen stimulating products, particularly with dilute Radiesse and with Bellafill, that's how we were able to achieve that. Kim is saying, please don't tell me this is Sculptra. Why are you worried about Sculptra, Kim? What happened to Sculptra that's getting you upset? This wasn't with Sculptra, but I'm wondering why is that you're concerned with Sculptra. Phoenicia saying, do you do glutathione injections, and if so, how much? No, I don't. I don't believe in skin lightening. I like that. I believe in getting rid of excess pigmentation, but I don't believe in like lightening your actual natural skin tone and your skin color. I'm not a fan of that. It's also potentially toxic for your liver, so I wouldn't really recommend it for that purpose as well. In the Philippines, the FDA equivalent in the Philippines actually spoke against that because it was pretty popular over there. So that's why I don't do that actually. Nana is saying, your results look really great. Could you show on which points you would inject on the face? Yeah, I will in a couple of weeks probably be able to get a setup where I'll be able to draw on these things. Hopefully I'll go back. I'll circle back to that. I can't really draw on it while I'm doing the live right now, but I'll try to do that at some point though. And I'll make it a little bit more where I can just circle some things. Kim is saying, problems with it from day one. My face is huge and the color of my skin is gray. Been 2 years. Yeah, so Kim, I'm sorry that happened with Sculptra, and I've seen it myself where people mess up some things like that. It's all about how the person's injecting it. To be totally honest with you, it's all about the way people inject stuff. It's not about the product. I've run into like patient today was with Juvederm. She came all the way from Palm Springs. They had placed Juvederm in her mid cheek. It was really, really puffy, really swollen. Had to dissolve that. That's like the number one filler that I have to dissolve, or I have to find, or I find that it causes complications is Juvederm. It's very, very reactive. Sometimes it blocks the lymphatic system, and you could run into a lot of problems with that product. And so I think but there's other people who inject it, and they're injecting it deep to the bone. They're not running into any problems. And same thing with Sculptra. The way I inject Sculptra is actually very deep. I go down to the bone with it as well. I actually have a few spots that I do and localize those for those particular areas. I'm always looking under certain lighting to see where the volume depression is. And I've had people who tell me that they that you really have to go and be very, very aggressive with Sculptra and kind of really do a kind of overfill. And that's why I think we run into so many problems. And I think that, sometimes it's too superficial. Kim is saying a top surgeon told me not to massage it if I have lumps and weird outlines on my skin. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not even sure what a top surgeon means for that, to be honest with you. A lot of times, top surgeons don't do much with Sculptra, to be honest with you. Alice is saying, do you do spot subcision for acne scars, like targeting each scar individually? Sometimes. It depends on what's happening with it. If I need to, I will do it that way. Certain areas, I would do it that way. It just depends. But typically, I like to get it so that there's a lot of times I really want actually more tumescent in there, like that numbing solution in there, because it turns out that there's multiple different layers of the scar, and we really want to break down multiple different layers of the scar. And sometimes there's other aspects, like the scar is tethered in other areas that you may not expect, and so you really want to make sure that it's really completely numb inside there, and really you're able to break it down really, really well. I'm aware of the technique that some people do, where just do only individual scars. I've dealt with patients who've gotten those kind of subcisions multiple times, and they have hardly had much improvement at all for the scars. There's ways of doing this that I think really are tried and true at this point with me, and we could do it really, really well to make sure that it's safe and effective for patients. The problem is, though, sometimes that when people are doing when they're doing a subcision, for example, they're doing it in areas they potentially shouldn't with this wrong type of tools, and that can end up happening, and they end up doing things where, it's a bit too aggressive, for example, or they just they're not aggressive enough in some areas. So you end up kind of like not getting enough result, or you potentially could get complications with that. That's what ends up happening sometimes for some people. Jocelyn saying, I'm so happy I stumbled upon your account. Appreciate you, Jocelyn. Is this kind of thing helpful for you? Hopefully it is. And let me know if there's other topics you want me to go through. Actually, I'll show you this as well. This is me. And when I was particularly really gaunt, I actually just had gotten some numbing cream on here on my face because I was about to do a laser procedure. And I'm glad I got this photo, because I actually don't really necessarily get photos before I do procedures. And I happen to get this one here. So it's nice because you can showcase just how gaunt I was, and just hollowed out, and I don't have much fat. So it's like, what is someone like me supposed to do? It's Bellafill, it's collagen stimulating products. I did that. I also did a little bit of a dilute form of Radiesse as well for myself, and it worked out incredibly well for me. I'm very, very happy with the fact that I was able to rebuild my skin, rebuild my bone structure. And thanks, Joey. Yeah, you do know that guy. So it was it took a long process, and it was really, really fun to be able to do that. And it was things that, ultimately, I'm really happy looking back at what my skin looked like and my face looked like at that time. It's almost unrecognizable sometimes, just how gaunt I looked. And if I just did hyaluronic acid filler, if I went to somebody like a med spa that just did hyaluronic acid filler, I would just be really, really, upset because it wouldn't last the way I wanted it to last. I would find that just, potentially, may have migrated because they sometimes do it too superficial, things like that. There's ways of doing even hyaluronic acid filler that are different than the way that people do it, but this, at least, there's longevity with it. There was things that I did now that my skin quality got so much better today than it was even at that time, which is awesome. Glamour Plus is saying, can we do Sculptra or Radiesse before we start an acne scar revision, or should we wait to treat scars first? You could do it. It's no problem. There's no problem with it. So I'm a fan of that, because when you actually look at it, I want you to actually get volume and lift up sometimes. So if you feel like there is volume loss, do things for volume. So this case, what I did was, this was Bellafill. That's what I did. I did Bellafill. I found that Bellafill is one of the best products because it's like long lasting. It's like, just like, it's the kind of product that continue to make my skin quality better and better. And so it's like, very few things do that. Very few things can you go back to and say, actually, it looks better years from now, like 2-3 years from now, compared to where it was before. Like, how many things can you do it? Not many, right? Like, not many things can do it. Like, that's the thing. Is like, I actually think that that's one of the best parts about this stuff, is that we have products out there that can continue to make your skin quality better. We have treatments out there that, we could do without breaking the bank, that are not excessively expensive, that are not unattainable for the masses. All these people think that like everything has to be done with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not the truth. Can you center the photo to clearly see your after? Yeah, sure. Although my after is right here. This after was probably a couple years ago now. I actually have to get a new after now. I'm a little bit different now at this point, actually. You can see here. Here's my after now. This was before actually I did that after, before I did one of my laser sessions last year, which I think helped a ton more actually too. And then I did a little bit more like I did some Bellafill on my chin after this too. So just a couple of things, but actually I haven't really had to touch much with like my cheek or anywhere else now. And it's like, stay there. It's good. It's just done. And it's awesome. It's like, it gets to like stay there, and it's like, it's great. I hardly have to ever touch my face really for anything other than like some lasers here and there, and don't have to do much more with that. So pretty cool when you actually think about it. What's Cherry? Cherry is basically a financing program. Joe is asking about Cherry. Everybody's doing Cherry nowadays. It's huge actually. Everybody's doing Cherry. It's been amazing for patients. They're really liking the fact that they could have these different options. We take pretty much anything, so I'll let you guys decide. So this is the process. I'm showcasing this because I want you just to see, like, look at this process here from where we started from. For those who are just joining, I'm going to show you kind of the whole thing that sparked this whole conversation here, which is this again. So tech millionaire, so Brian Johnson, he sold his company for like $800 million several years ago. And he's known because he spends $2 million on anti-aging. So he does, lasers, and he does, I think he does like 150 vitamins a day. I'm not sure what the number is, but a bunch of vitamins a day, and a lot of other treatments. And here he did like some treatment that caused an allergic reaction. He doesn't say the name of the brand or anything like that, but it turned out it was some sort of derivative of fat cells, he said, and it was injected into his face, and then he ended up getting this terrible reaction. And then you can see afterwards, still look puffy. I'm not sure what, if that's how it's going to stay, or if that's just like kind of an acute response right now. But yeah, it looks like it's a nightmare process right there. And again, it spends $2 million a year. And I want to make it clear that there's things that are out there that don't require like $2 million. And there's ways of doing this that it's safe, that don't cause these kind of reactions. I've never encountered these kind of reactions for anything that I've done. And there's ways of doing this. Like there's ways we place the product too that matter. All those things actually factor into this. I see so much lymphatic obstruction from certain fillers because of the way it was placed. It was placed too superficial for a lot of patients, and that's a problem. Those are things that it's about where you're placing it for structure. So if you look at this patient, I wanted to show you this one again. This is a patient who's a little bit older, and if we have placed hyaluronic acid filler in her in parts of her cheek, it really could have actually caused more malar edema over here in this area. So that could have ended up happening, and then could have ended up having this issue where she could have had too much swelling, lymphatic blockage. So instead, using things that stimulate collagen production, like dilute Radiesse, like Bellafill, all those products actually end up making it really, really well, doing really, really well for patients, and it lasts for patients. That's the key. Julie's saying, do you have recommendations for swollen faces? What do you mean by swollen faces? Like from what? Is there a particular cause that you have swollen face? Just like, is it fat? Is it just like you feel like in the morning time it's more swollen, later on in the day it's more swollen? I'm not sure what you're referring to with that. Glamour puts in, can we do Sculptra or Radiesse? Oh, I think I answered Glamour's puts there. Why do med spas rarely offer Bellafill? They usually only offer Sculptra. Good question. I mean, a lot of it's because they're under a medical director who's not there a lot of times. And the medical director may not want their nurse or the PA to do permanent filler like Bellafill. and there's just not as much familiarity with it. There's a way of doing it where it's very, very different from hyaluronic acid filler. Very, very different. You have to really respect the product. And you have to be really, really clean with the surface of the skin. So we use things like betadine or Hibiclens on the skin, or like a high concentration of alcohol, to make sure that the skin is completely clean and sterilized when we're injecting something like Bellafill. And a lot of places don't do that when they're injecting hyaluronic acid filler even. Sometimes I've seen people, no joke, I've actually seen this myself, where they actually have the needle and on the syringe, and they'll put it on the tray, and it's like touching the tray, it's touching other stuff on the tray, and then they'll go back to injecting a person. No joke, I've actually seen this. And it's like, man, that's really, really risky, especially, it's risky with hyaluronic acid filler, of course, but it's especially risky with a permanent filler like Bellafill. Really, really risky for that. So, for something like that, I think that we have to be really, really excessively careful with. And fortunately, I started off with more of these kind of more permanent treatments, things like Bellafill, Radiesse, Sculptra. Those are things I actually started more with. And so I picked up really great habits because I knew that these were products that you just can't mess up with. So it's like, go put them in there, and you got to be really, really good and make sure that you're doing this at a very high level, because otherwise it could end up going sideways, and people are not going to be happy with that. It's something that they're stuck with for a while, and potentially sometimes permanent. And so I gotta be very, very careful as I'm doing this. And I'm, anybody who does filler with me, everybody knows I'm very, very careful as I'm doing it. Very, very careful. Let's see. Paige is saying you can use eye whitening drops on your skin for a temporary fix. I missed what the thing was. She's referring to somebody else. Gloria is saying, is it worth the money to have your bags removed under your eyes? Do they return after a while or no? Well, they could still return because you get older, but it is worth it. I mean, if you have the problem, it's worth always fixing a problem if you feel like it's bothering you. And if it's like really true eye bags, then really surgically removing the fat is a good solution, and sometimes the skin is a good solution. And then you could do things to support the tissue afterwards, like filler or fat, and so that way you don't have that problem in the future. What's my opinion of microneedling? It's okay for like a light type of treatment. If you just want a light treatment, just like a quick pick-me-up. Not great for most skincare problems, though, I would say. And so not really my go-to at all for pretty much anything other than just kind of a lighter treatment, just like a nice exfoliant, something like that. That's what it helps for. What treatments have I done? I've done a lot of things. So I'll show you again where I was. So this is me. And the things I did was I did forehead filler, I did under eye filler, I did temple filler, I did cheek filler. So I did the temples, and I did the cheeks, I did the forehead, I did chin, I did jaw. I did all of that with Bellafill. So Bellafill is pretty much my entire face is full of Bellafill. Did a little tiny bit in the nasolabial fold, like a tiny bit. And I also did a little bit of dilute Radiesse also. So I did a bunch of stuff, actually. Let's see here. Reggie's saying, I need skin tightening. What should I do? But I don't want fillers. Well, it depends. Like we're showcasing here, like you could do collagen stimulating products. So that works great. You could do Morpheus 8, that tightens the skin. You could do something called Face Tight. If you have, more laxity, you could do a facelift, neck lift. Those are all options here but I guess it depends on why don't you want fillers? Like what's the concern with fillers? Because clearly there's ways of doing fillers that are safe, and it's really, really nice, and you can still get a beautiful result. Let me see here. I missed a few things here. I'm pretty much over time. I'm going to try to hit a few questions here, though. Let's see here. I have a little fat pocket on the forehead. How do you treat that? So a little lipoma, sometimes we actually just do surgically. You could go directly at it, or sometimes you go through the brow, go underneath there, and just do that way. Kara is asking, would insurance cover TMJ Botox? I hurt so bad, but I can't afford $500 for treatment. I think it may sometimes. You just have to submit that you tried a bunch of different things, but maybe, it depends on what's happening with your insurance company. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Phenol peel is better than all of them. Javier, what are you referring to? Better than what? Referring to certain kinds of scars? Let's see here. Elisa is saying, is Bellafill better than Sculptra and Radiesse? It serves a different purpose. I love Bellafill. It's more for like targeted structural, for some spots that you really want to improve in certain areas. Sculptra is really great also for collagen response and volume. And then Radiesse, there's a couple different ways of doing Radiesse. You could do it really for the bone, or you could do a dilute form, which is great for skin tightening. It's really great for collagen response as well. Overall, like slowly rebuilding your skin, really nice for all those things. Hola Leila, ¿cómo está? Let's see here. I know I missed a few things here. I'll try to get a bunch of things. Gloria is saying, thank you for answering my questions. I forgot to mention, is it really expensive? Thank you again. Well, I was saying that the patients that had like kind of that global volumization that I showed you earlier, that's about a little bit less than $3,000, I believe, for something like that. It depends on how much volume loss you have. But it lasts you. It's something that's going to continue to last and continue to make the skin quality good. So very, very different than procedures that just are like kind of quick fixes. These are things that overall your skin itself is going to look really good. Lily's is asking, what do you recommend for receding chin filler-wise? So I like Restylane Define works really well. Bellafill works really well. Radiesse looks really well. Depends on what you're trying to shoot for and how deep the recession is. User 75 is asking, do you do talar liberator subcision? I do a ton of talar liberator, a ton. It just usually small localized areas. I don't do typically the full field of talar liberator that some people do. I just do it more localized in some areas. Are there any vitamins that help with scarring? Things that help with healing, like zinc would help with healing, but it's not going to help so much with just the scars. Maybe you could try collagen, and maybe it'll help, but I don't think it's going to help too much there. Paige is saying, do you like Sculptra the best for under-eye orbital bone area? No, it's terrible for that area. It's a really, really risky spot for that. You don't want to do it anywhere where it's circular, where it's a circular muscle. It could potentially cause the filler to get displaced. It could cause a little bit too much of a collagen response over there, get puffy, and then you can't get rid of it then. Let's see here what I missed. Actually, there's so many questions, so I'll try to answer some more questions before I sign off for tonight. Let's see here. I know I missed a bunch, so I'll try to get to some of these guys. Anessa's saying, what are my solutions if my under eyes are hollow, but I don't want to get filler? Well, you lost volume, so you're probably going to need filler, but PRP is a great option. Just keep on doing PRP. It works very, very well. Anessa's saying that she did PRP, but do it a few times. It's not just one and done type of thing. Does microneedling at home work? It depends. I think the stamper is probably okay. Like something like Banish is probably okay, but not going to help too much for like most patient scars. May help a little bit for some collagen stimulation though. Let's see. I think I'm going to wrap up right now. If there's any pressing questions, let me know. Okay, Bruce Wayne is saying, how can I work on my under eyebrow? You could actually put Bellafill there. Bellafill is actually a good spot there. Can I use kojic acid while pregnant? You should be able to. Yeah, azelaic acid, kojic acid, those are both okay. What are the side effects or worries of filler? Well, it depends on who's injecting, honestly. Some of it is just that it can migrate if it's placed improperly, or if it's in a certain area, the product potentially could it could be something that draws in too much water. It could cause an occlusion, which basically means that sometimes it blocks the blood flow, and that's a risk as well with filler. There's ways of doing it to mitigate those risks, and a lot of it's involved with the technique, really. But there's ways of doing it. There's ways to be really, really safe with all these different procedures. Alan is saying, which is better, subcision, laser, or microneedling for acne scars? So Alan, what kind of scars do you have? That'll be my final thing tonight. We'll hit you as a final question here. What kind of scars do you have? Let's see. Here's high frequency ultrasound worth it? Probably not. Going to potentially melt too much fat. Honestly, I don't love it. Boxcar scars. Okay, so Alan has boxcar scars, asking what's the best option. So Bellafill works fine for that. You could also do excision. Sometimes you actually could do punch elevation for that, and you could do lasers around the edges of it. All those are potential options there. Why do I look so young? Yeah, I'm 5 years younger than Brian Johnson. I'm 42 years old. I appreciate it. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about, that there's ways of doing this, and there's ways that, that are evidence-based, that don't cause reactions that potentially could be catastrophic. It's not experimental. There's ways of doing this that are safe, that are really nice, and there's longevity with it. So that's what my whole message is here. It doesn't have to be something where you have to spend $2 million a year, Really doesn't have to be. It really shouldn't be. In fact, I think actually, I know he's investigating these things. He's taking a look and seeing, what potential options are out there, and trying to push the people to explore, different alternative options for their faces and their bodies, and that's partly where his money's going. But I just take a multivitamin. I don't take I don't do like 120 or 130 vitamins. So I don't do any of that stuff. And like, there's like just a multivitamin, and just like, I don't eat carbs at nighttime, which helps out a ton. Things like that, honestly, are, I think, a lot more practical for people. I think that it's a lot easier for patients just to follow. And again, it's like, you don't have to spend that much. And lasers are useful, but they're not going to cost you $2 million a year. I'll tell you that. Like, it's not going to cost you $2 million a year. If they were, like, I definitely am doing something wrong for the fact that you have to do that many times the laser, 2 million times. $2 million is just like an incredible amount of money to be spending for your aging process. And there's ways of doing this that pretty much, most people could do, most people could afford. If you can't afford it, that's okay. I understand. I do understand it. I don't want to, this is not like a thing where I'm trying to push people towards treatments. I get that people are in different, moments in their life, but sometimes, there may be a moment where it looks like you're comfortable enough and it makes sense for you to work on your face, to work on your skin. And we could do it really, really at a high level and make you look really, really great. And I will do it, and I'll get you through that process because I care about your investment. And it's not going to cost you that much. And like I said, this patient is a really, really nice example of somebody we've done several years ago. And now I just, do Dysport on her, and she just looks amazing. It's awesome. It's really fun to see that. It's really, really great to see that process and that progress for someone like her, who she felt that was judged because of the fact that she looked older than her age. And it didn't feel right for her. And it's not like people, even my patient today I was consulting, she's just like, I don't want to do this for other people. I'm just doing it for myself. And that's the case. Like, a lot of people just want to do this for themselves. They don't want to do this for validation from others. And I feel like you should really not do that for that, because you're never going to really be too happy. There's people that are just going to bring you down. And if they're commenting on the way you look, commenting on your pigmentation or scars or your volume loss, things like that, you could sort of tell if they're coming from a good place. It's coming about the way they're saying it, but how you feel afterwards. And they don't really care about how you feel. If they think that this is how, oh, I'm just a blunt person, I'm just being direct, you're probably not the best person, probably need to get a new friend, honestly. But if you yourself look at it and think I want to look at myself and feel a certain way when I look at myself. I used to feel that way when I was younger, and I want to kind of get back to something like that where, I'm the best possible version of myself at this age. That's pretty cool. That's achievable. That's something we could do. I don't like to have it where, people say, well, I want to look younger. I want to look, 10 years younger, or they show me a photo when they're 20s and they're like, I want to look like that. And they're in their 50s, for example, or something like that. It's we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to achieve that. We're not going to be able to get to that level. There's really not going to be much of a way to go reverse the clock like that. But when you're looking at yourself, I want you to feel good. I think you're going to be able to get a true freedom, actual real freedom, when you no longer have these kind of restraints on yourself, and you feel like there's nothing else that's really holding you back, and you really are looking at it and saying that you are achieving everything and you're able to achieve everything. And it's that's going to be an amazing feeling, an amazing sensation for yourself. And I hope everybody experiences that. I really do. I hope everybody in life goes through a process. I feel like almost every single day I get that. I'm actually going through, when I'm doing my laser treatments, or I'm doing subcision, or doing something like fillers and things like that, and I'm looking at it, it's man, I really wish I could have told my younger self some things. I really do. I really wish I could have told them that it's really going to be awesome. You really do get to a point where it's really amazing. You're changing people's lives in a really positive way. And it's and yourself, you feel good about yourself and everything like that. And it's really cool. It's it's real true freedom and happiness. And I want everybody in the world to achieve that. That's actually my religion. I want people to feel freedom. I want them to like just have no longer any of these burdens on themselves. That's why I don't want to put, none of our staff, anybody like is salesy at all. I don't want to like push stuff on people. I want people to feel like it makes sense for them. I want them to know that this is the process that we're going through, and this is the right moment, the right time. You're not going to go bankrupt for this. It's like it makes sense for you, and you're doing it for yourself. You're going to go to somebody like me who's going to do it at a very, very high level. We're going to be really, really good with you, but like be at a proper place for yourself. And we will then, once this gets solved, now imagine where you could go later on in the future. And it's going to be so cool. And it's going to be really fun to see that process. And it's fun for me to see these patients like years and years later. Like this is my fun time of the year, even though it's super busy. And sorry, I did have somebody wait just a little bit long today because I was like doing a few things, but like we got through everything. Everyone was amazing. We did amazing work today. And it's like, it's fun for me because I get to see some patients I don't see for like the rest of the year. They just come once a year right now to come over for like Christmas time and Thanksgiving time to like get a fresher up things. And like I worked on them for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they look amazing right now. And it's really cool to see. It's like really cool. And you can see the confidence in them. You can see like how good they feel. And now they just have something that like they have forever. And that's pretty cool, right? Like now they just have years and years of like this feeling that I get when I'm doing my work, which is fun. Did she get filler? Yeah, this is a different kind of filler. This is collagen stimulating products. So this is with dilute Radiesse, and this is with Bellafill. And you know, the collagen stimulating products are amazing. It's really the process here. What I want to showcase for everybody, there's a way to help with getting the best version of yourself without looking puffy, without looking overdone, without spending $2 million a year with doing collagen stimulating products such as Bellafill, Radiesse, Sculptra, and lasers. All those things, biostimulators. Joey's like, biostimulator, all in caps. There's the word, biostimulators. That's the buzzword for today. We're going to stick with that. Bellafill and Radiesse, the same. No, I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But hopefully, you guys have a better understanding of the overall process of things we could do for the aging process. Sarah is saying, hi, I'm a new grad PA and would love to get into this field. Any advice? What part of the field are you trying to get into? Are you just more like the aesthetic world you're thinking of? Brenda's saying, isn't it hard to get a facelift after Radiesse? It depends on where it's placed. It depends on how it's done. You know, there's ways of doing it that I do it particularly deep typically. If I do a dilute form, it's going to be dilute. It's not going to be much of a problem. My partner does facelifts all the time on patients that I've done Bellafill on, Radiesse on, Sculptra on. She runs into zero problems with that. So no, there's not much of a problem the way we're doing it. It's all about the way people are doing it. But yes, if it's possible, the way some people do products, even with hyaluronic acid filler, it can run into problems. So it's not just like a matter of Radiesse or anything like that. Let's see here. Do you recommend subcision on shallow scars? Not necessarily. You may not need to. What time am I on tomorrow? I'm at 9 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Thursday. So feel free to come on over here, and I'll help you out there at that point. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you again tomorrow night.